She was just a music teacher at a stranger's wedding. He was the mysterious man who sat beside her and changed everything. From a forgotten table to a rooftop in Paris, their story is filled with hidden truths, broken promises, and a love that defied every expectation. But when silence falls and secrets return, will love be enough? Don't miss the emotional journey of Eliza Carter and the man who dared to stay. Where are you watching from? Comment below and hit subscribe for more unforgettable love stories that speak straight to the heart. Eliza Carter poked at the lukewarm salmon on her plate, trying not to look like someone who had been abandoned at table 11. Around her, the vineyard shimmered with fairy lights and the scent of overpriced roses. Laughter spilled from glittering mouths, champagne flowed like water, and everyone seemed to know exactly where they belonged. Everyone except her. She didn't even know the bride or groom. Her roommate had begged her to come last minute, claiming she couldn't attend solo. That same roommate was now nowhere to be found, likely tangled up with the groomsman she'd been eyeing all week. Eliza sighed, adjusting the hem of her navy blue dress, which clung to her body in all the wrong places and wasn't even hers. She didn't drink much, but tonight the wine in her hand felt more like armor than indulgence. She reached for a roll, trying to appear occupied, when a voice beside her made her freeze. "Is this seat taken?" She looked up. The man standing there was tall, of course he was tall, with a sharp jaw, rumpled dark hair, and a tuxedo that looked like it had been made just for him. There was something about the way he held himself, like he didn't need to impress anyone but still managed to do it without trying. "Nope," she said, maybe too fast. "Be my guest." He slid into the chair beside her, unbothered by the fact that this was clearly the overflow table, the place where forgotten cousins and work acquaintances were deposited and promptly ignored. "I'm Theo Maddox," he said, holding out a hand. "Groomsman, and currently evading a well-meaning aunt who keeps trying to pinch my cheeks and remind me I used to have a bowl cut." Eliza laughed, more than she meant to. Eliza Carter, not a groomsman, and dodging the fact that I don't know a single soul here except my roommate who abandoned me for a man with a man bun. He smirked, and she noticed the way his eyes crinkled at the edges. "Sounds like we're both social strays." She took a sip of wine. "More like wedding orphans." He tilted his head thoughtfully. "You know, you don't really strike me as someone who fades into the background." Eliza raised a brow. "You just met me." "True," he said. "But I pay attention." His knee brushed hers under the table, just enough to make her heart skip. "Okay, Sherlock," she said. "If you're so observant, what do you know about me?" He leaned in slightly, eyes twinkling. "You're not here for the cake. You're here because you said yes when you meant no. And you're regretting it, but not entirely, because if you hadn't come, you wouldn't have met me." That pulled another laugh out of her. "Wow. Confident much?" "Not confident, just honest." The music swelled into something slow and sweet. Couples drifted onto the dance floor, twirling beneath the twinkle of string lights. Theo didn't move, didn't even glance at the dancers. Instead, he stayed focused on her, his gaze steady but not heavy. "You look like someone who doesn't like pretending." That startled her a little, because he wasn't wrong. She swallowed. "You say a lot for someone I just met. You listen a lot for someone who claims not to care." Eliza blinked. This wasn't how weddings were supposed to go. She was supposed to endure 3 hours of awkward conversation, fake a headache, and escape to her apartment by 10. But somehow, with a stranger at the overflow table and a string of words that felt strangely personal, she no longer wanted to leave. Not yet. Not if Theo Maddox kept talking to her like she mattered. 2 weeks later, Eliza Carter was elbow-deep in glitter glue and sheet music, trying to coax harmony out of 7 third graders and 1 defiant triangle player. The children's music therapy clinic smelled faintly of juice boxes and disinfectant, and she found comfort in the rhythm of the chaos. Her days were noisy, messy, and a far cry from the manicured perfection of the Napa wedding, but they were hers. Still, every so often, especially during slow afternoons or rainy walks home, her mind wandered to Theo Maddox. The groomsman with a crooked smile and eyes that saw too much. The man who had vanished from her life with nothing but a scribbled note tucked into her purse. "Find me in the city of second chances. TM. She dismissed it as a charming farewell, a poetic cop-out from someone she was never meant to see again. until he walked through the doors of the clinic. It was a gray Tuesday when the world tilted. Eliza had been helping a young boy with coordination drills on the piano when the front door chimed. She turned, only half listening as the receptionist mentioned something about a foundation donor tour. And then, there he was. Theo, dressed in a charcoal coat, no tie, hair wind-blown from the cold. As if the universe had summoned him out of thin air and planted him 3 feet from her. "Eliza," he said, not smiling at first, just saying her name like it was something rare and precious. "Hi," she blinked. "You're here." "I told you to find me in New York," he said, voice low. "I figured I'd make it easier." She stared. "What are you doing here?" "I'm the new silent backer for the clinic's outreach program," he said. Well, I was supposed to stay silent, but I've never been good at that. It was absurd, coincidental, movie script impossible, and yet, somehow, it felt right. They had coffee that evening at a quiet spot 2 blocks down, tucked between a bookstore and a florist. The kind of place that played jazz too softly and served cinnamon in everything. He told her about leaving his family's corporate shadow behind, stepping away from a name that carried too much weight and too many expectations. He was building something new now, smaller, slower, better. She told him about the kids, about how music could reach places words couldn't, about the weight of showing up for others when you barely knew how to show up for yourself. "I wanted to see you again," he admitted, "even if it was just once. But then I read about the clinic's budget cuts, and it felt like fate lining things up." "Or guilt," she said, half teasing. "Maybe," he admitted, "but mostly you." She stirred her tea. "This doesn't feel real. It doesn't have to yet. Let it just be this." As they walked out into the cool evening, the city pulsed around them, strangers brushing by like static. Theo turned to her on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets. "I have a thing Thursday night, a gala, foundation dinner, champagne, boring speeches, rich people pretending they're not rich. That sounds wildly unappealing. Exactly why I need someone real to help me survive it." He grinned. "Come with me, as moral support, or as someone who can whisper sarcasm in my ear during donor speeches." She hesitated. "You sure you want to bring a kid's music therapist to mingle with hedge fund millionaires?" He looked at her like the answer was obvious. "You're the only person I want in the room." She said yes, despite the nerves, despite the voice in her head that whispered, "This can't be real." But something in the way he waited for her answer, not like a man trying to win her, but like someone inviting her into a world he hoped she'd stay in, made her believe. At least for now. The gala was held in a converted art museum overlooking the river, all polished marble and echoing chandeliers. Eliza had tried to convince herself that she didn't belong there, that her thrifted black dress, carefully steamed with a borrowed clutch, would scream outsider in a room full of polished designer gowns. But the moment she stepped through the glass doors and saw Theo waiting near the bar, all the anxious noise quieted. He looked different tonight. Clean-shaven, hair neatly styled, the tucks fitting him like a second skin. But the crooked half-smile when he saw her was exactly the same. "You showed up," he said, stepping forward. "You sent a driver," she pointed out. He held out his arm. "Only the best for my reluctant date." Inside, the room buzzed with money disguised as elegance. Art hung on the walls with tiny plaques that probably cost more than her rent. People floated by with champagne flutes and practiced charm. Theo led her through it all like a tether, introducing her to board members and donors, always keeping one hand on the small of her back. When she'd fumbled through her first conversation with a tech CEO who looked vaguely familiar, Theo had leaned in and whispered, "You're doing better than me." He once pitched an app that tells you when your houseplants are depressed. She nearly choked on her wine. For a while, she forgot she was out of place. Until the journalist. He was older, thin-lipped, and wore a press badge like it gave him permission to be unpleasant. He sidled up while Theo was across the room, speaking with someone near the auction table. "So," the man said, eyes glinting, "you're the new mystery woman. I hope you've done your homework." Eliza blinked. "Excuse me? You do know who he is, right?" "Theo Maddox, former heir apparent to Maddox Group. The empire with the insider trading scandal, political bribery ties, and a father who thinks apologies are for poor people." She stiffened. "I'm not sure why that's any of your business." He shrugged. "You seem smart, Thought I'd give you a head start before you find your face in a headline." She didn't respond, just walked away, heart thudding like a war drum. Theo found her outside on the terrace, staring out over the city with her arms wrapped tightly around herself. "Hey," he said softly. "Everything okay?" She turned slowly. His face sobered. "What did he say?" "Enough," she said. "Enough to make me wonder if you, are exactly what I was afraid of." Theo stepped closer. "Eliza, you said you left all of that behind." "I did. I walked away from the company, from my father. I testified against them. I burned bridges most people don't survive walking on." "Then why not just tell me? Why let me walk into this blind?" His voice dropped. "Because I liked being someone else with you. Someone who wasn't defined by scandal or stock tickers. Just me." Eliza looked at him, really looked, at the worry behind his charm, the tension in his jaw, the way he stood like he was bracing for a door to close. "I get that," she said finally. "But you don't get to protect me from the truth just because it's easier for you." He nodded slowly. "You're right." They stood in silence for a moment, the buzz of the party humming behind the glass. "I don't know what to do now," she admitted. "Come to the showcase," he said. "The one you mentioned. Let me show up for something that matters to you." She hesitated, then nodded. They left together, but something had shifted. The closeness that had felt so effortless now held a fragile edge. That night, as he kissed her cheek and tucked her into the car, she could still feel the question hanging between them. What are we, really? And would it still hold when the lights went out and the glitter faded? The auditorium lights dimmed as the final note of the ensemble faded, and Eliza felt her shoulders slowly relax for the first time all night. The children's showcase had gone better than she dared hope. No one forgot their parts, no one cried mid-song, and the audience, filled with parents, local board members, and a few community leaders, had actually clapped like they meant it. She stood just off stage, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning the program. One name wasn't there. One face hadn't shown up. Theo hadn't come. She had reserved a seat for him. Front row. It sat empty. After all that talk about showing up, about being different, he had vanished. Again. By the time the last bows were taken and the kids had scattered into a sea of proud families, Eliza ducked out a side exit and into the quiet hallway behind the stage. Her heart burned. Not with heartbreak exactly, but with disappointment that settled into her bones like cold rain. This was exactly why she didn't let people in easily. Why she didn't believe in grand gestures. Because the moment they became real, they fell apart. She had just grabbed her coat from the office when she heard the door creak open. "Eliza," Theo's voice echoed softly in the narrow corridor. She turned slowly, bracing herself. He stood there in jeans and a wrinkled coat, hair damp from the drizzle outside. There were dark circles under his eyes and a bandage wrapped around one knuckle. "You missed it," she said flatly. "I know," he breathed. "And I'm sorry." "Don't say you tried," she cut in. "Don't tell me you meant to, because I've heard that before, and it doesn't mean anything." He looked down. "I didn't try. I couldn't." Eliza blinked. "What does that mean?" Theo stepped closer. "I was subpoenaed 3 days ago. Federal court. I had to fly out the night after the gala. They didn't give me time to explain, and I wasn't allowed to contact anyone. Not even you." Her stomach dropped. "Subpoenaed? I told you I walked away from my family's empire," he said. "What I didn't tell you was that I helped dismantle it. I turned in evidence. I testified. And this week, the Department of Justice needed me to confirm things before the trial." She stared at him, the pieces slowly shifting into place. "I wasn't trying to ghost you," he said. "I was trying to protect you. I didn't want your name dragged into any of this." "So you just disappeared," she said, her voice cracking. "Do you have any idea how that felt? Like I was just background noise." "I never saw you that way." His voice was raw. "But I was selfish. I thought I could handle both. This thing between us and the mess I'm cleaning up, I thought I could keep you untouched by it." She crossed her arms, trying to hold herself together. "And now? Now I know I can't do this without you." He pulled something from his coat pocket, a manila folder, worn and folded at the corners. Inside was a proposal. A nonprofit initiative for music therapy in underserved schools. Based in San Francisco, backed by an independent foundation Theo had started quietly, while everything else in his life had been falling apart. I want you to run this, he said. Build it, shape it, make it yours. She looked up, stunned. And I want to build it with you, he added. Not because I need redemption, but because when I imagine doing something good, something real, you're part of that picture. Eliza didn't say anything for a long time. The hallway buzzed with the distant hum of applause still lingering beyond the walls. Finally, she spoke. You should have trusted me with the truth. I know, he said. I won't make that mistake again. She exhaled slowly. This changes everything. I hope so, he said, because everything before you didn't feel like enough. She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time saw not just the man who had shown up late, but the man who had returned anyway. The soft clang of cutlery against ceramic echoed through the sunlit kitchen as Eliza poured the last of the coffee into 2 mismatched mugs. Outside, the San Francisco fog had begun to lift, revealing the sparkling outline of the bay. The apartment smelled faintly of toast, burnt as usual, and lavender from the candle she forgot to blow out the night before. She turned to find Theo standing barefoot by the window, glasses slipping down his nose, frowning at a blueprint spread across the table. This architect, he muttered, tapping the page, is absolutely allergic to simplicity. Eliza smiled as she set his mug beside the mess of documents. You say that like you didn't pick him for that exact reason. I pick chaos, he admitted, but only if it comes with potential. She raised an eyebrow. Was that about the building or me? Theo looked up and grinned. Yes. It had been 6 months since they moved into the modest 3rd-floor flat above a used bookstore and a bakery that smelled like cinnamon sins. 6 months since Eliza said yes, not to an engagement, but to the possibility of something lasting. She now directed the city's first music therapy program for at-risk youth, built from scratch with Theo's quiet funding and relentless support. They shared the work, the late nights, the early mornings, and more often than not, the dishes. The world hadn't stopped throwing curveballs. Theo still spent hours on calls with legal teams, managing the fallout of a family name he'd chosen to dismantle. Eliza still wrestled with budgets and broken violins. But they met in the middle, between chaos and calm, ambition and humility, and built a life around the quiet certainty that they were in this together. That evening, the community center buzzed with nervous energy. It was showcase night again, only this time it was their own. A recital of the children they'd worked with for months, their progress stitched into melodies and shaky harmonies. Eliza stood backstage in a black jumpsuit, hair swept back, clipboard clutched tightly in one hand and an earpiece in the other. You good? Theo asked, joining her as the lights dimmed in the hall. No, she whispered, but in a good way. The performance began, and Eliza watched from the wings, pride swelling with every note. These kids, some shy, some defiant, all brilliant in their own way, stood tall on that stage like they belonged. And in that moment, she realized something. She had stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. She wasn't holding her breath for an ending anymore. After the final bow, thunderous applause rolled through the auditorium. Eliza stepped outside to breathe, blinking away tears, the cool air crisp against her cheeks. Moments later, Theo joined her, a quiet smile on his face. They did it, she said. You did it, he corrected. Then, after a pause, we did. She turned to face him, expecting another warm hug, maybe a kiss. Instead, he pulled a small box from his coat pocket. Eliza, her breath caught. Are you? I'm not proposing, he said, opening the box to reveal a slim ring of rose gold, etched with a simple staff of music notes. Not yet. This isn't a proposal. This is a promise. She blinked, tears slipping quietly down her cheek. I'm not promising perfection or forever wrapped in ribbon, he continued. I'm promising I'll stay. When it's messy, when it's hard, when the songs don't come out right, I'll stay. Eliza reached out, voice soft. You already have. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit as though it had always belonged there. As they embraced, the sounds of celebration drifted from inside, but out here, it was just the two of them, steady and sure. A month later, they married in a wildflower field outside the city, barefoot and laughing, with the kids from the program playing a shaky rendition of Eliza's favorite song. No headlines, no press, just vows whispered under a cloudless sky. Two people who had built something quietly extraordinary from the broken pieces they were brave enough to share. At its core, The Seat Beside Her is not just a love story. It's a story about choosing honesty over appearances, presence over perfection, and courage over comfort. Eliza and Theo weren't perfect people. They carried baggage, made mistakes, and hurt each other in ways they never intended. But what made their journey powerful was their willingness to show up, again and again, even after the silence, even after the storms. This story reminds us that love isn't about grand gestures or flawless timing. It's about the quiet, everyday decisions to stay when it's easier to leave, to speak when it's simpler to stay silent, to build something real, messy, and meaningful together. It also teaches us that we don't have to be defined by our past, our titles, or our fears. We are not the families we come from, the roles we inherit, or the mistakes we've made. We are who we choose to be, especially when no one is watching. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong at the table, like you were the outsider in someone else's story, let this be your reminder. Sometimes the seat you're given isn't where your story starts. It's where everything changes. Now we'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt, powerful stories just like this one.